Hey everybody, welcome back to another Stone-Faced Reactions. I'm Theta, and we're here with another chapter in a new volume of Gundam 00F. Last time we did the bonus material because, again, sorry, just didn't have time. And this time we're going on into a full new opening. But before then, let's go ahead and just dive into our comment for today from Log Long. Okay, for the nanomachine thing. Humans don't usually have nanomachines. It is more or less speculated that Hanyo is giving him its nanomachines to repair his body. Works all right with humans, because Innovades have access to these specific Veda-made nanomachines for Innovades. Okay. Alright, I guess that's what those, Wait, is that what those guys are called? Or is that just a name I'm not recognizing here at the moment? Oh, innovators, right. I guess I just don't know it as innovates. Alright, whatever. Regeneration treatment is a different tech. Chell, I guess you mean Chal, implies that someone gave the Meister tag to the throne pilots, which, yes, did happen. Yes, Veda does not good or evil. That is what spoilers are for. Veda is a lot more complicated and works behind everyone's back. I mean, yeah. I mean, most of that agrees with everything I either said or thought and maybe didn't say. I okay, I guess I didn't read into the nanomachines thing right, but at the same time, that doesn't read to what we were told Hanyo was both in the main text and in the bonus material we just read. Because Hanyo is just like a 3D projection, which means that she's basically just light, and whatever she's really doing is going through the multi-purpose Haru unit. So I guess it's not impossible the Haru unit could be carrying nanomachines inside of it. That's fine. Doesn't change anything. We're all cool. No need to debate this or anything. Regeneration treatment is a different tech. Sure. Not a big deal. And Veda is not good or evil. Yes, because it says that. And Veda is a lot more complicated and works behind everyone's back. Yeah, because basically nobody has. I guess Scheinberg has level 7 access, and he would be the only one. Because it's implied that the highest level that we're aware of access-wise is our strategist aboard the Batalmos, Sumeragi. So there's gotta be other levels. They wouldn't make the levels unless someone was using them. Still want to know who the guards are. But yeah, no, okay. That was our only comment today, and it was my rambling. Because this time I decided to answer off the cuff instead of just doing something ahead of time. Other than that, no real thoughts or anything other than Fawn. Fawn needs to be rescued, I guess. So how about we just go ahead and launch on into this with Chapter 6, Aeolia. Or Aeolia. I don't remember how we said his name before, and I've been calling him Scheinberg all this time because to make it easy on myself. We start off with the first color cover of the new volume depicting a blonde character wearing a cravat and a cold weather outfit. I'll be honest here, I don't immediately recognize them off the bat. We have what I assume to be the Abhul in the bottom. Good to know it's green, I guess. In the background, based on the head circle thing, I'm going to say we have the Saddlesud. As I said, recognizing same-ish Gundams is something I'm bad at. In our next page, we get a real quick recap of the events from the last volume in the form of Celestial Being and Farachette being introduced to us in the form of their logos and Gundam lineups. We are also told that the appearance of the Trinities referring to the last names of the people piloting the thrones, has only made the world hate Gundams more. And in this, we get a color panel of Fawn almost dying before being reminded how they came after Ferishet. We then get a full color spread of Fawn, one hand gripping Hanyo in space above some planet. Bandages unraveling from around his neck. To the left of him is the Pluton, also apparently a red motif. I instantly like the Pluton's depiction more than the Apul's, as the Pluton has multiple different colors built into its scheme, whereas the Apul felt like someone had dunked it into a vat of green paint and just called it a day. By the way, that'll get you a deduction of points in some of the higher tier Warhammer tournaments, as I've been told anyway. Overall, a really cool image. I liked the bandaged Fawn look. It's that edgy sort of cool that I grew up with, and likely would have enjoyed if I had read this when it first came out. Now, considering what I've been told about the release timing of the manga as it aligns with the episodes that were being released, I guess this new page catches us up to where we are in the show, which is rearing the end of season 1, if I recall right. Clarification. What I mean is where we are in the show as it relates to when this was released, not where we are in the show as it relates to me and Griff reacting. We are still well ahead of this, and probably never going to catch up before I finish. We see our first panels of the UN Army, which seem to be those mobile suits we saw hidden away before on the show. After a panel showing reaction faces from what seemed to be a random set of people. Best guess here, Setsuna, Lock On, Hallelujah. Almost was going to say Chal, but I think that's actually Tiara. And then Fawn and Hanyo get added to that lineup. Then we get to see Alejandro and Ribbons looking on menacingly, as the narrator tells us that the waves of change furiously descend on Ferishet. I think I'm slowly being able to distinguish Alejandro and Ali in my head now. Probably thankfully to the fact that Ali is still alive, and as far as I know, Alejandro died. Alejandro, the only real big character death in the finale of season 1, I guess. Well, I guess Lock On counts, but whatever I'm saying. Back to the black and white again. We see that the asteroid fragments we constantly see in the show are actually at Lagrange point 1. We went over the Lagrange points in our Witch from Mercury reactions, as just about everything took place at one of them. But it's interesting to note that all the stuff that is at L1, as I just assumed it was all further away from the Earth than that. I guess that asteroids get towed into L1 to be mined as a safe location for it. Maybe to be used as to construct the solar array and the like. Just guessing. We also see that this is where the hidden Ptolemy base is. Ptolemios? Greek. It's hard, man. It's hard. With the text reading that the ICU capsule is operational. We see Fawn restrained inside a transparent chamber. Everyone else in the room is having their identities hidden from us in that reverse shot sort of way, except for Hanyo, who is too distinctive to not recognize. The doctor says that Fawn shouldn't have gone this far, to which Hanyo apologizes, but Charles says that they were right for having acted and that she's happy they did so. Of course, Hanyo. We start the next page on a shot of Ian, who, as of this recording, we just saw his entire family in danger during our last episode's recording. He announces that all the vets have gathered together. We see the doctor, Ian, Hanyo, and Chal in an adjoining room to where Fawn is. As someone that's gone through many CT and PET scans for cancer-related issues, this one was a very real feel for me. I only wish some of the places that I'd gone to had clear visibility windows between me and the staff like this. I'll be honest, the majority of the scans get done in a trailer outside of the hospital. Uh, it's like a mobile sort of thing that the hospital like rents out space for. It's very claustrophobic. Anyway, I'm guessing the indication here is that these are all people either 30 and over or are related to the second generation of Gundams. Hanyo then asks about Sherilyn, to which Ian points off somewhere and indicates that she's transferring useful stuff to them at the moment. We get a single shot of Sherilyn at a console by herself, apparently doing data transfer. Ian then begins to reminisce, saying that it has been 15 years since the second generation Gundams were developed, and we get a headshot of the platoon as he remarks about how they have aged. Soon they will have to pass on their craft to their kids, he remarks, as the doctor says that he wouldn't really like to do that, but that Ian may be right. Just a tangential thought not related to this page itself, but now I have to wonder if the main crew actually does know about Farrachette. So far, it feels like the side characters of Celestial Beings crew all knows about them, with no indication as to whether they are keeping that a secret or not. Given how we've already gone over how much higher an access level Sumeragi has to Veda, it seems likely she'd be in the know as well. As per that whole, what was that, level 4? Was she level 4 or 5? No, 7 is the main one. I could scroll up and check, but I don't want to have you all watch me reading my notes out loud. You're already getting enough of that. Next up, we get an adorable shot of a younger Chal. Darker hair and without the scar, but same style and clothing is apparent. Ian comments on how funny it is that the adult woman in front of him used to be the same young and energetic person from the past, to which Chal gets embarrassed and asks him not to say such things. Turning to address Hanyo, he then says that she hasn't changed at all, and I guess he shows what his type is as he comments to himself that the outfit looks really good on her. Hanyo remains unresponsive to this until Chal leans in to correct him, informing him that Hanyo rescued Fawn on her own without relying on instructions from Veda. The last Charles speech panel just confuses me without an immediate context. She says, "Could it be that more than me?" I feel like I need to know something more about her past in order for that to make sense. Because otherwise, the only thing I could glean about that may be that she's questioning if Hanyo has changed more than she has. Otherwise, Ian steps in again and repeats that she hasn't changed at all. I suppose implying that she has always was always that kind of person to have done this. Chal then asks if Sumeragi knows about what's going on, and Ian assures her that she thinks they are his resupply agents, but she might have figured out the truth. He's unsure. And we see an image of her draped in shadow that couldn't be anything other than Season 1 Sumeragi for two reasons. She's drinking still, and she's smiling. I mean, get to where we... little bit back from where we were in our recent recordings, and she was very depressed, so... I mean, maybe the drinking thing was still a thing, but the smiling thing, not so much. The doctor chimes in that in case she did figure them out, he's secured a recommendation from Mai. I've got no clue what the recommendation is for. Maybe to become a full-fledged member of Celestial Being, in case their cover is blown, so they would still be in the organization. No clue. But the doctor compliments Chal that she's become a good strategist herself. I don't know why I keep saying that. Strategist. The word is strategist. I know it. I keep saying strategist. Like we're playing Stratego. That's not even the name of the game. I'll move on before I look even dumber. Apparently, Chal loves compliments from these people she's known since she was a child, as she seems genuinely pleased by this and state that she's grown too, so it's only natural that she'd improve a little. Changing the subject back to Fawn Spark, the doctor reminds her that he cannot stay there forever. As soon as he stabilizes, they will transfer him to a medical capsule where they will need to continue the treatment on their own. Focusing back on Chal, he asks her to get for a checkup, something she questions. He says it's the perfect time for one and asks if she's been taking her medicine, to which she says she has, and that there's no reason for him to worry. Prompting a flashback, the doctor recalls out loud that it was a very unfortunate event, to which Charles stays silent, and we get the first blip of a flashback bubble. Eventually, in the manga before this one, or evidently rather, the event with the Pluton we keep dancing around was that the GN drive overloaded during the prevention of a terrorist attack on the HRL orbital elevator. The pilot escaped in the core fighter at the same time as it overloaded. Not reading ahead here, but it just occurred to me that if everyone heals from their wounds with nanobots and regenerative medicine, then either it's still not good enough to prevent scarring, or the people with scars were in such an event as to prevent the healing, like the Regian particles prevent Luis's arm from being healed. So my expectation is that the Colonel and Chal had something extreme happen to them. That, or I'm just completely wrong. In our next full-page spread, we get to see what's been haunting Chal this entire time. In the first panel, it looks like the Pluton is starting down a mass of jets in the distance. Really tiny specks in the drawing, so hard to make out. Below that, we see a younger Chal asking about the core fighter. In the very next panel, asking if the escape system isn't working. I think the text in the bottom panel is meant to be coming over the comms and not from Chal, as someone says not to come any closer, shouting the name Rudio and Marlene. I'm saying in questioning voice because I don't know if Rito. Bad with names too. We see Pluton exploding for the second time in the series, as someone says that they will send her back alive for sure, that she must survive. In a shot of two of the people from a previous flashback, one of them being the guy I said looked a hell of a lot like Echo, as the text says that both were enveloped in a massive amount of GN particles and were likely killed instantly. In the shadow panel beneath it, we have what I believe to be the same doctor and Ian telling a young and very hurt Chal this as she screams out in anguish. If any of what I said before turns out to be wrong, it's because I was figuring out what I was seeing as I read it. Sometimes it's hard to tell who is talking to who over the radio in a manga panel that doesn't indicate or feature the other characters. To the best of my understanding, what I think I'm looking at is Chal was piloting the Pluton, and it had the GN drive overload. The core fighter wouldn't launch, and her other Meisters, R and Marlene, rushed up to save her, which is why it's actually her calling them not to come any closer, and also why the core fighter looks so damaged when it's flying away from the Pluton. That they forced it out as the Pluton was exploding, putting them right there in the blast, causing them to get like irradiated in GN particles and killing them instantly. If I'm wrong, let me know. This is clearly a very emotional moment for a young Chal, and I would really like to understand the source of that pain, or at least get it right, so I can understand the character better. We get one more look at her former team members, and then a shot of young Chal cradling what looks like a baby. Maybe her teammates were a couple and had kid or something. Seems about right for the kind of trauma Gundam likes to inflict. Maybe Echo looks like this kid because he looks like that guy because he's that kid. No, wait. Echo and Chal are about the same age, so that wouldn't work. Forget that. Felt like I was onto something for a hot second. Either way, Chal declines the doctor's suggestion for a checkup. Ian interrupts the tense situation to say that they should keep in such old talk to themselves, with Chal agreeing to this. Hanyo speaks up to say that she thinks Chal is doing something very good and that they think very highly of her. This causes Chal to smile, and she thanks Hanyo, first using her Meister designator before switching to her name. We get a shot of Chal, and then the effect of a screen whip in a view of space. I don't know, I said whip, I meant wipe. I am. It is very hot. I don't know if you guys understand global warming, but it's real. It's been real for a long time. We're all gonna die to it. Can't wait for the Gundam global warming episode. That leads us to our time skip, as Fawn spends his time recovering. We see the events from the opening of the volume play out. One panel depicting the death of that one scientist that had figured things out minutes before the tower he was in got shot and destroyed. We skip over Luis's family dying and go straight to Setsuna confronting the thrones, leading to the UN developing its own GN drive-equipped mobile suits. I believe the perspective here is meant to be Charles questioning the events that have just transpired and asking if someone is messing with Scheinberg's plans, or are these part of his plans? That's the problem with the Xanatos Gambit, is you never know whose plans you're playing into. Moving to the new present, we appear to be back at Farished HQ, which I guess means that Veda didn't disband them after all, and the Thrones never found the time to come back between their last mission and getting attacked by Setsuna. Echo questions the fact that there would be a traitor in Celestial Being while looking at readouts and commenting on the information passing through. He then suggests that they listen to Ian and cut the link to Veda. Chal interjects that the truth doesn't lie with Veda, but in the real world, and they have the power to discover it. The last panel is a shot of a mobile suit glowing with many cables attached to it. At first I thought this might be showing us Exia going into Trans Am, but on a closer look, I'm thinking this is Plutone being repaired, and the glow might be GN particles, or whatever the whole rebirth system thing was meant to mean in the last volume's extra bits. The text is likely Charles, as she suggests that the betrayal was likely a long time coming, as you don't just make GN-equipped mobile suits in a day. At an outside shot in Earth's orbit, we see the UN Army Gundams lined up below the solar array, with one of the space elevators in the background. Chal continues that the parts to make them were manufactured in multiple places and disguised as work loaders, but that it's basically impossible to hide the production of such things. And that instead of chasing after secrets, the superpowers should have been looking for obvious evidence first. Echo then questions what she means by this, and just as he does, an alarm goes off. If I can remember this one onomatopoeia, I think I might be good for the future. as per all my previous onomatopoeia confusions. Chaw and Echo both do that super anime thing of staring off of the ceiling when something dramatic happens, as they ask what is going on, questioning if there is an intruder in the HQ. The screen they were looking at indicates a warning, and they immediately recognize that it is in Fawn's room. Chaw has an internal freakout as she thinks someone has come after Fawn, that they just saved his life, and they won't let anyone take it again. Rushing down the halls with guns drawn, Echo and Chaw make their way to Fawn's room and rush in, only have shocked looks on their faces when the door opens and it's Fawn looking back at them. In our full spread, we see that Fawn is fine and has eaten 13 full trays of food and is working on a 14th, with Sherilyn ready to serve him a pizza as well. God. I just wish I lived in a place with a cafeteria. I know, I look so fit, right? Like somebody who wouldn't want that. Hanyo is standing off to the side with a projected button to turn off the alarm. When Fawn sees them, he calls Echo an old man again and tells him to get some better food from storage. Echo immediately shouts at him for ordering him around, but Chaw knocks him out of the way, happily shouting in surprise that Fawn is all right. Fawn's response, I woke up because I was so damn hungry. To be fair, the trays he's eating look like they're from like a Hungry Man deluxe meal. Regardless of how big they are, there's always too little food in a meal for there. There's always too little food in there for a meal. I'm going dyslexic the older I get. I'm sorry. Especially if you were, as the box describes, a hungry man. I mean, 14 is still a bit much, but I could see how he could be plowing through them. Also, we got our first glimpse of his new neck wrap. Echo still seems to be seething at him as he shouts what was that alarm about. Hanyo responds that they set it off, as Fawn ordered them to find a quick way to call them. As Echo seems to be getting angrier, Fawn says from between bites of pizza slices that the first thing he wanted to do after he came to was to see everyone. Echo instantly looks like he's about to break down in tears as he says that he can finally relax. Gathering himself up quickly, Echo goes on to try and explain the things we'd seen in the previous cut by telling him that some big events had happened while he was sleeping. Fawn shrugs it off by calling it exciting while reaching down for another slice of pizza. Hanyo interjecting that she'd already given him a brief interview. Chaw steps in to clarify that since they can't use Veda, they don't have much reliable data. As we've seen many times before, and why the last volume's interjection of Fawn's character seemed to be so odd to me, Fawn is really good at reading between the lines and making correct assumptions about things. He responds to Chaw by saying that if you just think hard and give your opinion, it will be okay. Because what you see and perceive is the real world. Harkening back to a conversation she and Echo were having earlier, for some reason, I read the last two face panels as suspicious eyes, but I don't really know where else to go from there. I guess, like, how do you know we were talking about that? I was asleep. You know, that sort of thing. Steeling himself, Echo says that if they don't do something about their traitor, then Scheinberg's plan will, and Fawn interrupts him before he can finish, saying that the geezer's plan will be fine, that he must have thought that someone might betray him. Chaw, following through on her own thoughts from earlier in the chapter, asks if this is also a part of his plan. The unification of the world through the destruction of the Gundams. Shouting now, she follows through with the thought by questioning the very purpose of the Gundams and what they've been doing. Breaking out into one of his crazy laughs, Fawn jumps off the table and closes the distance with Chal, getting right into her face as he asks her if she created those Gundams with the intent for them to be destroyed, knowing that the answer is no. He declares that the Gundams are their comrades, and together they will correct all the mistakes. On this page, Fawn has a cold look in his eye, while Chal has that weakness that gets drawn in certain romantic panels of manga. I really wasn't shipping these two before. There's a large age gap between them, but honestly, I was seeing older women when I was that age, so hell, why not? I'm down for it if that's where they're going end up going. Since we've already gotten one of Fawn's trademark crazy laughs, where would we be without one of his trademark head scratches as well? And that is where we start this page as he shouts that it's time to get started. Everyone else in the room looks confused at this, and Fawn just responds that he is going out in the Gundam. Echo looks worried and confused, but Fawn turns back to them all and says that since he is able, now he is going to do just what's natural. Apparently Echo is still the only one questioning this as Sherilyn announces that the Astrea is ready for launch as the solar furnace has already been mounted. Also, without Veda available, the support system from the Ptolemos has been copied over. Hanyo states that they will act as support as Chal just smiles on. Fawn gives us another big crazy laugh and shouts how perfect that is. We do a quick cut over to the bay, where I am clearly shown to be wrong about which Gundam I saw before. I thought the Headwings thing was the Plutons, but clearly the Astrea has very similar ones. I guess the Pluton really has been destroyed, despite us seeing it having been blown up twice in this series already. Fawn announces that the Astrea Type F is ready for launch, as Hanyo sits at his arm with holographic controls in her hands. He says it's time to go, and she agrees. But before anything can happen, Hanyo goes into a crazy blurred state. The only thing I could think to liken it to is when a cartoon character goes into a sugar high. That's what the panel made me think of. Also, I guess worthy of note, I'm only just picking up on now, they didn't lock Fawn's hands back together again. Meaning he's just been free to do whatever this whole time. Fawn asks her what's wrong, but it's clear that Shiga has gone unresponsive. And our next panel shows a spacesuited figure with a gun in hand, standing before an image of Scheinberg. The last panel displays the word Trans Am on the Gundam's forehead, so I think it's fairly obvious what has happened. Alejandro has just shot the body of Scheinberg on the moon, and the automated response we saw during that episode is now taking place. In the next spread, we see the Trans Am effect starting to take place over the Astrea as Scheinberg's speech begins to play. Fawn shouts out, "Old man!" as he is wont to do at people older than him, as Hanyo seems to snap out of her trance. As Scheinberg states that he will entrust the Gundam Meisters with his final hope, the full potential of the GN drive. Fawn questions this. Hanyo lets him know that the message is being transmitted to all the units with original solar furnaces. And we see a shot of Setsuna in their cockpit, and the rest of the Gundam Meisters gathered on the Ptolemos, I believe. Scheinberg wraps up his speech by concluding that he would hope that the Meisters would continue to fight for peace of their own free will, along with the Gundams. We already know Fawn disagrees with the Celestial Being mission statement, but he says that he didn't need to be told that, shouting as the Astrea goes full Trans Am that he will do with his own free will and the Gundams. With our last page and our last shot, we have the Astrea and full Trans Am shooting out of the Fairshad asteroid base with Fawn's insane laughter following it. This one was a lot. It's the start of another volume, so we get a colorized intro to things. We'd recap in the chapter proper. That was nice. Always loved the colorized pages. Even though I really don't know the backstory of most of the stuff yet, I really like the whole Old Guard meeting the chapter started with. It wasn't too ham-fisted in shoving information on my face, while still giving me the personalities of the characters and their interactions with one another. Also, another hint towards Charles' past, really making me want to read OOP when this manga is done. I'm still interested to see if the Pluton comes back, or if its major thing was just stuff we'll see OOP, and its inclusion thus far has just been a nod to that. I also still love the group dynamic. I also still love the group dynamic of the Fairchet team. It's all too human and relatable, something you guys know I'm all about in these shows. Sometimes they fight, but they still care about one another. And this is all the culmination of Fawn risking himself to save the thing that brings them together, and then them risking themselves to save Fawn. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm just saying that if a Fawn/Shawl romance happens at some point, wouldn't be opposed. Overall, I'm tempted to give this chapter a 9 out of 10, but I want to leave room for the manga to do better. Show me how close to perfection you can get. So it's just going to get an 8 out of 10 from me. Better than most that we've gotten so far, but I'm hoping it does better. Not just with storytelling, art. I don't read a lot of manga. I read a lot of manhwa, and all the manhwa I read is colored, so I guess it kind of gets spoiled in that regard. But like Vanada's Heart that we're also reading on the channel for Witch from Mercury, that art is also typically amazing. Nah, oh God, I can't say amazing either. The one manga I did read was Fire Punch. Now that was amazing. Vanada's Heart is competent. It shows me enough background and side stuff with the background information scrawled onto it that if I deep dive, I can figure stuff out. The early sections of 00F were horrible for their art, and they've gotten better as they go along. We're vastly approaching competency, and I really like that. That's why the score is constantly going up. But yeah, that is that for this chapter of Gundam 00F, and I will see you all on the next chapter.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stone-Faced Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video and what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?